everyone, and welcome back to the Tiger Den. I hope you guys are doing well. Sheriff, thank you for the hydrate. I did already hydrate, but I'll hydrate again. Today's hydration will be with Gatorade instead of regular water, because I apparently can't keep fluids in me right now. Okay, so I apologize for being a few minutes late on starting the stream. I decided to work with the jewelry box, and I hunted down all my jewelry and got it in the jewelry box. I got it in its forever home, and then I looked at the time, and I had like 2 minutes to rush over and get everything set up and started. So there was that. I also got up here a little early and decided to do a 9x12 sketch of the postcard that I have here, mostly because I want to have a big version that people can buy. I'm planning on getting into the art studio where I've been teaching classes and selling some of my stuff. I don't know if I want to sell like the trading cards or if I want to do full pieces or both. So I'm just trying to up my stock of full pieces with just watercolor that is not laminated. I learned the hard way, you do not laminate art. I am getting interrupted, so give me a minute to just be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Apparently my toddler is getting into things he's not supposed to and has glue all over him now because he got into my nail glue, so that's fun. I'm still going to stream. They are working on getting it cleaned up. After stream, I'm going to have to go work on cleaning it up myself, but that definitely means I have to end at 3 o'clock, just that way I can go deal with that. What was I saying? Anyway, I got the jewelry box all set up and working, and it looks great. It's fabulous in its spot. It makes me really happy. Past that, I don't think there's anything else I really need to say as an intro to this video. Again, we're going to be working on the ponds today. I'm going to work on a big one so that way I have some stock for selling big pieces that are not laminated, because I learned lamination actually can ruin watercolor and canvas and everything else, and my thought was protect it so it stays around longer, but then it doesn't fit in the frame, I learned, and if it peels, it ruins the painting. So, never laminating a painting or a piece of art again. Learn that the hard way. And I need to make my stock of unlaminated stuff much bigger. So I am working on a pond that's bigger so that way I can go between the two. Obviously this one is much closer to done than this one. So this one's probably going to be done. I'm going to still be working on this one. What I'm doing right now is I'm taking my kneaded eraser and I'm lightening these lines. I'm gonna do it like a normal eraser. I'm not gonna roll it. I'm gonna lighten these lines so when I go to paint it, it's not as evident where my sketch marks are, because watercolor is transparent. It can actually show through, the pencil marks can show through the watercolor paint itself, which is why this one's got so many pencil marks on it. You can try and hide it with thickening your paint, but I want to try and keep this one light and whimsical. So I'm going to want these pencil lines very, very light. It does mean that you may not see the pencil lines type light, but that, you know what, that's okay. We'll make it work. Like, I already lost my lines for my rainbow. Like, I can kind of see them, but they're very light. I probably should have darkened the line for the rainbow just a touch more. Same with the shadows, they're basically non-existent. It's where I had my darker lines that I can still see, and you guys actually might be able to still see, because they are still pretty dark. So kneaded erasers are pretty nice, because you can knead the graphite into them, and then it works as if it's like a fresh eraser. Most people will do a rolling method with a kneaded eraser, which is very efficient, but I, for some reason, just can't get it to be efficient. many people who use kneaded erasers can. I don't know how they do it. There's also the pat method like this, where you just kind of go around and like stick it on and then pull it up, like silly putty, or like those the putty stuff you get for the car, like that pink putty stuff that pulls up dirt and dust. But it never erases nearly as much as I would like. Then we're getting rid of these. So I have 2 bushes of color up here and a rock down here is my goal. Now watch me do the bushes as rocks and be irritated with myself, because that's exactly what I did over here. So I think that's light enough. We should be able to see without getting too much going on. I am probably going to start with the water on this one, just that way I can kind of get it working. I'm going to go very, very light blue over where the rainbow is. That way it can have that tinge of water on it. Of course, it's going to be very dependent on different things. And apparently I'm getting interrupted again. I don't know why. I'm going to be right back. I apologize, guys. Toddler is toddlering. Alright, I'm back again. So toddler is toddlering is basically the report. Anyway, I'm going to start with the water on this one, and I'm going to start with this one just so we can get that water drying a little faster. Or at least get it drying while we're working on everything else. I am going to take the same blue I used yesterday, and I'm going to water it down quite a bit because we had it pretty thick here. And I'm also going to take water and start putting it here on the lake. I'm going to have to do this in sections, because the water is going to dry a lot faster than I'd like it to. So we're going to have to go real quick here. Start to about there, do the top third, which we will be coming back in the top third with shadow, which I may have to do now just because I want it to blend and smooth around. I may be able to get this whole thing wet. It depends on how much water I can get on this, and it looks like it's already starting to dry, so not much. Yeah, we're gonna have to do this in sections. We will make it work. So we're gonna blend up this blue again. I think I'm gonna add some. I didn't activate any of my colors. I'm gonna add some of this cerulean blue, which isn't super active right now, just to lighten up the color to a more of a light blue than a deep dark blue that lightened. And then we're going to just go in and start painting right where that blue goes. And again, we want to keep it nice and light because we want it to be kind of reflective and showing off the sky. Kind of painting in here. Like I said, we're going about a third of the way down. That way we can keep that water the way it is. And now there is a lot of shadow up here on this piece. So I'm going to go in and start doing some shadows while it's still wet. Because shadowing it with wet is going to be the best thing you can do. Now the wetness does come down to here. So I'm going to take this and like bring all the shadow down. I want it to blend nicely. Take that shadow. All I did was add a little bit of this darker pan here. That's down at the bottom. I'm guessing it was like some black and gray mixture. I'm just bringing in those shadows. Taking it up to the rock. You know, doing all that good stuff. And you want to do this as quickly as possible. That way you can have a nice blend of natural movement with that shadow. As you get deeper with the shadow, then you can start kind of adding shadow details and things like that. Like right here, I'm trying to add a tree. Keep the shadow over here, and we're going to add some other lines going down. As you can see, it did blend out, so that tree didn't become very well defined. That is okay. So now I'm going to squirt some more water because I got most of that color gone. And I think I'll take in where the trees are and add some green to it. Just a little bit of green, but right now I want to get the rest of that lake covered. I'm going to start blending in with this lighter blue. Again, I'm going to go over where the rainbow is. The rainbow will be a lot thicker, so it should shine through, but I want it to have that blue tint. That way it actually looks like a rainbow on water. It has that reflection thing going on. Again, we're trying to paint as quick as possible because it's a bigger piece and we want to keep it wet. I also need to lift clouds out of it still. It is already starting to dry here in certain places. So I gotta blend it and wet it. Keep meandering both ways. Make sure that it's dried right here, so it's gonna have a little bit of a line there. Going around these lily pads. Watercolor can be frustrating because of the fact that you have to move so quickly with it. This is something I'm going to be teaching in my water class eventually, is the quick moves you have to do with shadows. Add some darker blue here. We're going to go in with that shadow again. Kind of darken it up a little bit more. The darkness of the shadows will give a very, very unique feeling of all sorts of stuff. As you can see, just kind of dipping it in and blending it out is enough to give it what we need. This one is going this way. Take that shadow and bring it over here. Here. As you can see, as we darken that blue, it is causing a little bit more of a shadowed effect here. And with it being wet, it's basically what's called feathering, which is creating that nice ambiance of flow. I think the one that I did for the first one was a little too light. I could, if I wanted to, take the mop brush and kind of blend this out a little bit more. But I don't want it to be too mixed in, because then it won't have that natural flow anymore. I know I made this a tree, but I'm going to kind of get rid of the tree a little bit. Bring it down. Okay, that should be good. Now I gotta take the clouds out here, which I don't know if I can because this dried. Yeah, I can't. Okay. Well, we don't get clouds because I was not fast enough to get the clouds. That's fine. Everything is fine. Try and blend out these watermarks here. The harsh lines of the water. Just soften the edge, basically. Some of these harsh lines will be covered up by the green that we put in the lily pad, so that will help as well. We got the water done. It's looking pretty good. We have a nice little light spot down here that needs fixed. But we have some good lilies here. We got the ground. I got the bushes. I can work on making this rock here. So I'm going to go ahead and lighten up this color. Because that area is dry now with that light blue, I can go in and make this rock without having to worry about it bleed too much. I'm going to make it a nice bright rock, and I'm going to add some green to it so it looks like there's grass on top. Same with the rock up here. That's going to be the difference between the two, is the rocks are going to have a little bit of green grass to help them flow and make it feel more alive. And I want to make that a little darker, so I'm just going to add a little bit of dark or burnt cyan here. Just that way I can have a little bit of blendy rock here. And just kind of tab it out. Just that way that rock has some texture. That looks really good. So now I'm going to leave this one to dry for a bit before I touch anything else. Just because I want it to not mess with the water of the pond too much, and this is all still very wet. So we're going to go back to this piece. For this piece, I am going to go to a smaller brush, and we are going to work on the lily colors. I really, really want a very pinkest pink lily, and then I'm going to use the golden yellow for the center of the lily. I think that's about all I got to say. The rainbow also I can work on as well, so I'm going to do an iridescent rainbow. Means I'm working with these lower paints. I could do a sparkle, but I don't have an orange sparkle. I would have had to have mixed one. And I don't have a light blue. Wait, red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Okay, no, I just need the sparkle orange. I guess I could mix them. We're going to activate the sparkles, and we're going to decide later. For now, we're going to start with the lily, which is apparently still very dry. This pink is just dry as hell. I think I got enough on my brush. I hope. The edges just don't wanna work. So we're just gonna kind of put some petals down. Just point and then push. Point and push. Point and push. Point and push. Yeah, the pinkest pink is not doing good on getting me what I need. And then we're just going to kind of fill that in there. And then we are going to let that dry. Down here, I'm going to try again with the paint and push. Hopefully I don't get too much water when I do this. Paint and push is working really well on the blue. It's just the lily where it's like, haha, you don't get to see it. Gotta really make it thick for that lily portion. You want the consistency of butter, not milk, for doing it over the green. Okay. Now those have got to dry. Again, we're letting the water on the big one dry, so we're going to take our time there. I think I am going to go with the glitter just because I feel like the glitter will be a little bit more stand out. I mean, how many paints do you find that have like actual glitter in them? Oops, I touched the water. Does also mean I have to make an orange. But I'm going to be doing every other color right now. That way I can let them dry and then do the colors in between. This red toward the end didn't get a lot of glitter, so I'm just kind of dropping some in here. The whole point of this particular piece that I want it to feel is it's a Zen garden that isn't fully Zen because you're not in balance. Your rocks aren't straight. They aren't. It's not so much a Zen garden as like a Zen start. And because of that, you kind of have this like calm reflection of a rainbow that shows the color in life, the beauty, but you also are in chaos because you're not balanced. You're not where you want to be. And this is just supposed to represent the difference between being unbalanced and having everything you need. Now for the glitter yellow. Now the only catch with the glitters for mixing a color is the glitter isn't going to mix colors. So even though I mixed the red and the yellow to make an orange, the glitter is going to be both red and yellow instead of orange. That's not going to mix together. The last one is going to be blue. I don't see much glitter in my blue. It's a little disappointing. I know it's in there. It's just really, really hard to see. Got our primary colors in here. Now for the big rainbow, I'm probably not going to do the glitter unless the orange turns out like really amazing. I'm probably going to stick with the iridescent paint just because of the fact that I have more blue options than just regular blue. I set the big piece to be a 7-color rainbow where it's got blue and indigo instead of just blue. Glitter is not existing on here. There we go. There's some glitter. Now, once the rainbow and the flowers are all dry, I'll be able to do the whites, which will really make this pop. It's going to change it all drastically, which I think you guys are going to really like. That needs to dry now, so we'll go back to this side. I am going to go... Do I want to go after the lily pads? Or do I want to go after the flowers first? Let's go after the lily pads. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my greens are nice and wet because they tend to lighten up on me. We're just going to take that nice yellow-green and we're going to start painting the lily pads. Now, I do want it nice and wet, so I'm going to dip in the water. I want this lily pad to be nice and light and airy. Again, much like I did with the postcard, I'm not going to focus on different colored lily pads so much as just the lily pad shapes and feels. Now, I'm beginning to think I should have wet the lily pad before I did this because it's getting kind of thick. And I probably should use a bigger brush. I also realized my brush is kind of small for this. I'm going to go ahead and swap brushes. We're going to go with the medium brush. Actually, no, we'll go with the big brush. Just to kind of get more paint on there faster. So we want it to not dry on us while we're painting. Now the water is giving a natural shadow to the lily pad. That's just because I couldn't keep my water out of my lily pad, no matter how hard I tried. At this point, I'm also going to add some green to the rock here. So I'm just going to kind of dab in some green just to give it a little bit more life. Oops, wrong green. That's fine. I'm going to try and do it as like little bushels of green. That sticks out, some that doesn't. I'm going to blend it out here just to give that effect of feeling like there is different sections of the rock. Or even that is moss. You know what? It can be moss. I don't care. Going back to that light green, and we're going to work on this next lily. And it's hard to see the lines because as you paint with watercolor and you lighten those lines, they do disappear. So that's part of the issue right now. Seems to be doing okay now that I got the bigger brush. Yes, it's still getting some natural shadows from that blue, but that's just because watercolor is meant to be transparent. And I'll be able to fix that as I layer up the lily pads. A lot of detail goes into these pond pieces. It's a lot of layering and a lot of different effects that you gotta do. And yes, there is a way to do different colors, like you can do yellows and browns and all that good stuff. I just want to stick with green right now because I want it to be vibrant and in your face. Or most people may actually do different colors just to make it feel a little bit more realistic. To me, it isn't necessarily not realistic when it is all green. It's just different. That's my feel on it. I'm probably going to do the same coloration scheme on this one as I did on the postcard, where I'm going to do the pinkest pink for the lilies and the iridescent for the rainbow. I might do some iridescent flowers up top even to get a little bit more variation. Might do iridescent lilac and like sky blue for the flowers up top. Now that we got all of these nice and clean colored, we're going to go ahead and take a one step down and we're going to start shadowing, which honestly I probably should have done a little sooner. That way the shadow actually blended in. But it's okay. We can make this work. Take it out. The little lines that lily pads have. And we will be going over that again with a sap green. As you see, we are doing the slightly more darker green as we do those lines, and we're just trying to darken it up to separate out these lily pads. Now we're going to do the darker green here. Shadow right there. It can be hard to determine where a shadow goes quite often, just because of the fact that you really have to picture it in your mind. And without a reference photo, it can be hard to picture that in your mind. Wet this a little bit. We're going to take this and bring this into this lily pad. And just, again, working on shadowing. And the lines in the middle. Gotta get that nice circle. And then bring them out. Now, with my art projects lately, I have been doing like 1,000,001 of them. So I have so many projects to work on right now, it's not even funny. I got too much water there. Oops, I knew it was going to happen. I had a gut feeling. There we go. That one's just going to be a little bit more green. We'll work on that later. Don't forget, we will be going back in with the sap green for these lines, so that will help a lot of this extra darkness going on and create a little bit more of a layer effect. Just adding those shadows, and yes, I'm trying to do detail work with a big brush. Not the smartest thing to do, but it's what we're doing. Put more water in this green. Not a ton. Kind of dry out the brush a little bit, so that way we can not have a ton of water as we do these lily pads. Because the rocks aren't touching any of the lily pads and we need the lily pads to dry, I am going to go ahead and start doing the rocks I'm going to start with this base sandy color at the very bottom, which is going to need a lot of different colors mixed together. I'm going to mix the golden orange. Apparently a lot of golden orange. Mix that with the flesh. Scoop up a lot of that flesh. And to kind of make it a little bit more sandy, I'm going to add a touch of this like yellow ochre. And to lighten it, we're just going to squirt some water. And I had a swatch card here. There it is. So we're going to swatch it just to make sure it is the right color that we want. A little on the dark side. I think I'm going to add a little bit more flesh. It's looking a little better. That's a little better. It's about the same, but it's fine. So now we're just going to paint this bottom area here. Was a spot where the water came through in between the rocks, but I'm just going to make that island instead. I don't want to fight getting some blue in that tiny space. Now for the dirt, or before this island dries, I want to add some specks of things to it. I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to actually take a smaller brush. I'm going to dip in that yellow ochre again. Oh, that brush is really stiff. I'm going to dip in that yellow ochre again, and we're just going to carefully fling it onto this little island. As careful as we can not to get it in the water. That just gives that a little bit more texture. One more, and I'm going to hopefully get a little bit bigger pieces. There we go. That looks good. We did hit the water a little bit, so we're going to go in and just kind of soak that up. Just kind of blend it a little bit. Okay, now it's gone. So now we gotta wait for the rocks to dry and things like that. I am gonna go ahead and do the top here. Well, actually, I'm gonna do the bottom. I'm going to make this rock have a little bit more life by taking that yellow ochre and just kind of causing some more lines in this. Shadows, things like that. That should give this rock a little bit more life here. There. And I'm also going to go in with a slightly darker green, that second green. We're just going to kind of add some darkness here. And as it gets closer, it's going to get darker. So I am going to be using some darker greens than the lily pads and the bushes up above. I'll probably go to like second or third level of green, where this front I'm going to go all the way to the fourth level. And this just gives that green a little bit more life. So let's go ahead and let's make those flowers for the top area. And it looks like this is pretty much dry, so I'll be able to do the next steps after we do these flowers. So I'm going to take this very beautiful iridescent sky blue. We're just going to add some circles up here. It is looking pretty thick, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to add the flower centers, but we'll see what we can do. Add another flower right here. Same on this side. For that blue. Kind of create random blobs of flowers. We do want these to dry before touching them with the greens, because we don't want to accidentally have a blurry kind of green going on like we have down here with this rock where it's going into the river and lake. Or the pond, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So that is the blue, and then we're going to go in with that lilac purple, which apparently had enough water. I did not need to give it more water. A couple of those. This is just to give some variation in the bush more than anything. This is definitely a lot thinner. Like I said, I added too much water. And I'm going to try and do a little bit of kind of color mixing with this purple with the blue. But it may not work because that blue is pretty thick and I think it's already dry. Trying to do multiple different flowers here. And now I gotta wait for those to dry before I can do the next steps. Let's go back to the small one. Technically, it looks like my island's already dry, so I could go after the rocks right now, but let's focus on this small one right now. So we're gonna go to the second smallest brush I have, and we're actually gonna take that red, that glitter red, and we're going to try and mix it with the yellow to see if we can get an orange. It is very glittery red, though. Then the yellow's got a lot of glitter as well. Mix these two together. We are getting an orange, but like I said, those glitter specks are both red and yellow, so it's not going to look very orange. It's just going to look like red and yellow got touched together. That. Let's see. Swatch. Is it as orange as I would like? It's kind of browny, so let's add a touch more red. And there we go. That's a nice orange. It doesn't look too bad, I won't lie. Set that down there. It's just kind of weird seeing red and yellow flecks in an orange instead of just orange flecks. But I didn't have an orange glitter to make an orange, which is very disappointing. But because it's in a rainbow, it does also give the effect of it being orange as well. Going in with that green. Which also looks like all the glitter may have settled to the bottom. Not a lot of glitter up here. Fine. Got a little bit of glitter. And now we're going to do that purple. Also looks like the glitter settled. All of these, the glitter settled. Oh my goodness. That's a bit thick. At least with the green and purple, the specks from the glitter are the actual color instead of mixing two other ones together. So now we gotta wait for those to dry. While we're waiting for those to dry, I'm gonna go in with that golden yellow that I mentioned earlier. And we are going to put the centers of those lotus flowers. We will have to wait to dry before the next layer. And this one is almost done. We basically just have the white and the outside of the lotus flowers to finish. So this one's doing really, really, really good. So everything looks dry here. The lily pads are pretty dry, so I'm going to go in with the next color up to create some depth. I think I'm going to actually use this color down here because it has a touch of the darker colors. I don't want to take it too dark. Kind of create that center bit. Take those lines and bring them in. Again, doing this with a smaller, almost detail brush, just to get that definition. think this color I'm also going to use for the grass if I have enough of it. Otherwise, I'll just mix more of the medium color here. Trying to do very thin lines here because we don't want too much going on. I don't think I'm going to have enough. The more I am looking at this, the less I'm seeing as available, because each one takes quite a bit. I'm probably, for this next one, going to mix up more of it, and that way if it's darker, that's okay, because of the fact that they're farther away, they'll be a little bit more shadowed. I guess I should have done the opposite, actually. Further away, the lighter the green. But that required having planned ahead. So we're going to go ahead and take some of this green. We're going to mix it in here. I'm going to do 1 squirt, half squirt. Maybe I'll do another half a squirt. Just going to mix these greens up. Second green down. Sapify it. We're going to add some sap. We're going to take a look and see how close to the original color that was. That's pretty close. It's just really dark. So we're going to add some more water. Lighten it up. That's much better. That is much closer to the color we had. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to do a little line here, a line in that, and then we're going to do some small lines out. Looks like that lily pad was still very wet. So we're just going to have this one be a dark shadowed lily pad with no detail, or at least make sure it's super freaking dry before I add the other detail. I'm going to add that center, bring these out. Right, next one here. One is not wanting to take that color nearly as well. Add a touch more of that dark green. That way I can get that nice green color here. Make it on that outer edge. There we go. Last one. Go. That's looking nice and detailed here. I may have to do a small wash on these, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. These are not both shiny, so I'm going to activate this one that's not shiny. So that way I can start making the rocks. I added a little bit more water than there was pigment there because of the fact that I need this rock to be fairly light. Now I am going to have a couple different rock colors here. I'm going to have gray as the bottom one. This might be a little too light gray, so we're going to grab some more of that gray, make it a little darker. Better, that is much better. We're just going to make this rock exist in our inventory here. I like the idea of having rocks that have different shades of gray and different undertones because it makes it feel a little bit more realistic. So this one is going to be a kind of a cool Payne's gray one. The one on top is going to have a little bit more yellow. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the last one as a warm undertone gray. So I'm going to add like some red to it. And then while it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and splatter on some darker color here. And then quickly lift that up from the water. And then I'm going me also blend it out on this top one here. My Lowe's bucket is a little bit lower than I normally would do. Okay. Now we're gonna wait for all that to dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, I can go back in on the grass down here. We're gonna take that third green. We're just gonna add little lines here. So like I said, the closer you get, the more it's going to have some definition. I don't want it to be too defined yet. I do have one more layer of green to add. There's that. So I think the flowers up top are dry enough that I could start doing the leaves, but I want to wait on that and work on my my postcard version. I need to activate this pink is pink again. So we're going to go in with this pink is pink. And technically I could mix it with a slight, I'm going to mix it with a slightly darker color. So we're going to take this pink is pink. We're going to make a nice little puddle of it. I don't need a lot of a puddle. I just need a lot of pigment. Take and clean our brush, and then we're going to go in with this rose pink. We're going to kind of darken it up a little bit. Going to check and see if this is the color I want, and it is. That actually was the perfect ratio here. So we're going to dip in here, and then we're just going to make the outer petals on this lily. And there we go. We got a nice little lily. So you just start with a almost U shape, very wide U, and then just kind of come in brush and let the body of the brush do most of the work. Start at the tip of the brush and push down to create more of a lily look. There we go. That is beautiful. I love it. So now we gotta wait for those to dry. Once those are dry, we can start going in with the white, and it should be done at that point. Over here, I do have the big lilies I can work on. Which, let's go ahead and do that, just that way I can get this pink is pink almost done. It won't touch the rocks or anything like that. I do have to also do the rainbow, but I want to get these lilies done first. So we're just gonna, again, body of the brush, doing all the work. Now, it's not super evident because of the fact that the blue is there, but that is the lily. Same over here. As you can see, this big brush gives beautiful brush strokes for the lily. And again, we will be using this pink as the light version, and then I will mix it with that dark pink, which is like a crimson rose or something like that, and we will mix it that way. Rocks do look dry enough, so I should be able to get the two rocks going here. I'm going to swap over to the medium brush. So for the rock, I'm going to take this gray, and I'm going to mix it with this sand color that we did earlier. Just take a little bit more of it than I would, usually do. And then we are going to paint this top rock. See how it has that kind of sandy gray feeling? Gives it a little bit more definition and a little bit more option, if you will. Some variation. This one I will not speckle. I'm going to actually add striations. And striations are basically just lines that go across the rock of a different mineral than the rock is made of. And then for this last rock, the one on the side, I'm going to go ahead and take some of this warm orangey brown that we made earlier. I'm going to mix it in with that gray. I may actually even take some red and add it in. I still want it to be very gray. I want it to have more of a warm feeling where the bottom rock has a very cool feeling. In with some red here. That was way too much red. Take some of that golden yellow. Finally, some more gray. Creates that nice, almost warm color, like I said. And then we're going to test this, swatch this one. Yeah, that looks like a good color. So we're going to go in here and we're just going to add this in. I wanted it to be on the darker side because of the fact that I wanted it to show up against that cool gray and over that dark blue of the water. Now, I am going to have to darken it even more to get the side to have a little bit of shadow, but I wanted this one to feel more flat than the other ones. Kind of pick some up here on this side. That'll just give it a little bit more definition. Those lilies are almost fully dry, which means that is almost going to be done. Let's go ahead while we're waiting for them to dry and go ahead and do the leaves up here by the bushels. So I have two different size cat's tongue brushes. I'm going to start with the bigger size, actually. I almost did the smaller. That way I can kind of control where the brushes are. I'm going to add some more water to my greens. Again, we're only doing the bottom 3 shades because it's further away. Well, I mean, I could make it closer. Let's make it closer. I'll do all 4 shades. And then you're just going to push and lift. Push and lift. Water in this one. Push and lift. Apparently, I've forgotten when you do the cat's tongue, you do the point of the leaf a little bit further out. So when that's where you start is the point of the leaf and not at the back. Adding some nice light green in here. And this is where we're going to get a little bit more detail and growth. And then when we're done with that, we will add in a yellow or an orange for the centers of the flowers. I want to get the greenery in first so that way I can kind of see where the centers need to be. I also may have totally forgot to do the centers. I am trying to make these leaves kind of scatter around and go every direction. Leaves don't necessarily all grow the same direction, so you don't want them to all be the exact same. We're almost done with those leaves, which we will have to wait to let them dry before doing the next layer. Honestly, I may just go in and start doing the centers right now while they're drying. I'm going to do the centers right now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with the medium round brush. I'm going to go in with the lighter orange, I think is what I want. I could do the yellow. I don't want to do the yellow. We're going to go with this orange, and we're just going to put little dots in the center of these flowers. Kind of a suggestion of them being flowers. Kind of want to you don't want to have every single one as perfectly in the center. You want to off kilter some of them, just so that way it feels a little bit more like a flower tilted or anything like that. You could go in at the end with a fine liner and kind of define these flowers a little bit more. I haven't decided if I want to yet. I kind of like my flowers a little bit more abstract. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Oh, I got green on my finger. The green from the lilies is actually really, really good for the leaves, so I'm going to probably use that in the leaves as well. Might even use it in the grass. All the flowers now have centers, aside from, well, the lilies. I'm going to come in with that green that I just touched, and we're just going to add a sprinkle of it here and there. Oops, that was really blobby. In the grass down here is where we're going to add it. Okay. And the rock is already dry, so we can go in with those striations. The striations, I'm just going to take that gray color that we used and add a touch of burnt sienna, just to kind of warm it up. We're just going to go in and just create lines, ziggy-zaggy lines across it. Now, the one on the side here is not fully dry yet, so I'm not going to go after the shadows of that one quite yet. I am, however, going to add some more shadow here to the center one. Add a little bit of shadow here. Add a little bit of shadow on the ground. And I should go in with a blue now that I'm looking at my shaded areas and add some more kind of definition. So we're going to go in with the dark turquoise. Let's go with the dark blue. We're just going to, no. Add a little bit here and there, and then I'm going to have to blend this out. Add a little bit of darkness to it. Shadow where everything is here, as if it's coming from the sun. Water just to help blend this out. Don't want it too evident. Add some darker colors around. Mixing those two blacks here, or two blues. We're going to keep lightening it up. I gotta be careful not to touch that lily. Pick up some of that color to bring it up. And I'm not worried about getting too close to the flowers because I can go in with the green and I can make it a little bit more covered here. That extra dark up there. Spread this around. Yeah, I'm getting close to the flowers and leaves, but I'm going to use the darker greens to cover up the difference between the lake and the shadow I just made. Got a little bit of a tree here that we were going to make. Blend that out again. Kind of give it a little bit more variation. That in. Okay. This kind of looks a little weird here. So we're just going to blend that in. And we're going to take up here and we're going to continue blending. Don't want that harsh line on here. Oh, that's looking a little better. Soften our edges. This is why it's important to do the shadow when it's wet, is because it'll give you really harsh edges if you do it when it's dry. And I'm going to take that darkest blue, I'll wet it. We're just going to add little spots of darkness here and there. This will help give depth to the painting. to add it here and there. You don't want to go overboard too much. Yes, you are going to go into the lighter area with this dark as well. Probably not nearly as much, but just a little bit, just to give it a little definition here. Blend this out. Oh, I'm guessing that was another hydrate. Yeah, it was a hydrate. Okay, I'll hydrate in just a minute. Blend in this nice dark color. Give it a little bit more, like I said, oomph and depth to this painting. Add a little bit right there. We're going to kind of blend this in so that way we can hide that brush stroke here. There. I'm also going to take the second darkest color and we're just going to go over it in a few areas as well. Give, like I said, that little bit more definition of the water, the depth. And as you can see, the more blues we're adding, the more depth it looks like it's having, because of the fact that ponds aren't all one level. So having that darker area suggests that pond is slightly out. And you can dry brush some stuff, which will also give some texture. Actually looks really cool when you dry brush, I'm not gonna lie. Gives a little bit more definition to the words. It gives a little bit more definition to the trees and stuff. Just really awkward right here. I don't like it. Kind of lighten it up as best we can. Okay. I still don't like this patch. I kind of fucked up on that patch, but I can make it work once I get the white out for it. That lotus is still really wet, so we're not going to go after it. I'm going to go after the next level of green, and we're going to go again with the bigger of the two. I'm going to kind of refresh my brush bristles, and then we're going to take that green, and again, we start where the leaf is going and go up. Just going in and adding leaves wherever we think they belong. Now, we don't want to add too many because as we increase the green, we need to have space for the other ones. That doesn't cover the previous ones. Now you can kind of meander them a little bit. They don't have to be perfectly aligned. Actually, they don't have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. It's a leaf. It'll be fine. I do tend to go one direction with my leaves. That's just because of how my hand tends to want to exist. Fortunately, that is a thing that happens. As you can see, as we're adding these greens, that little bit of section between the pond and that shadow that I had with the bush is starting to disappear. That should be good. I'm liking how it's looking so far. I think I can go in with a nice dark green on this lily pad. So I can go ahead and take some really dark green, mix it into my little pot here. Then I'm going to take some sap, add some sap to it. dark green. So let's go ahead while it's still dry. I'm gonna add this nice dark green to it, just to give that detail back. Not every lily is going to be the same color. I know most of these look like the same color. I get it. It's fine. It's totally fine. If this one is going to be... Yeah, that one's going to be good up there. Just adding a little darker green, not super dark, to these lilies in the center. And then on the edges where the shadows will be. This lily, I do have to be careful not to go into the lotus. I gotta shadow very carefully. And the more you shadow the lilies, the more likely it is to have a kind of like a realistic feel. You'll see when we get to it that there is something we're gonna do under the lilies to make them feel like they're floating on the water. I think you guys will really like that effect. It's what we're all pretty much down to on the postcard. So you guys will see the effect in just a minute. I could add some blue next to the lilies to give them a little bit more shadowing. I don't necessarily want to do that because what I'm going to do with the other. Is that lily dry yet? No, it's not. Of course not. I think we're at the point that we can't do anymore until stuff dries. Oh, I can do the rock. I can do the rock. Gray, nice dark gray. We're going to mix it into that brown we made earlier for the rack. Grab some more gray because it's not dark enough in my opinion. Come over here to the swatch sheet again. That's a little too gray and way too dark. Take some more burnt sienna. And we're going to take some spray bottle and spritz it here to lighten it. There we go. That's much better. Might be... It'll be fine. It'll be like a glaze. So we're just going to take and go on this side here and make it look like a shadowed flat rock. What that is doing, and it's looking great. I'm going to go ahead and add a little line of this at the bottom of this other rock, just to kind of define that rock's existence in comparison to the rest of the island. I'm also going to take it, I'm going to shadow the island as well. I know technically I should use the shadow that was up here, but I feel better using this darker one. I feel it's giving a little bit more definition. And then I also need to add the grass on this island still. And I totally forgot about the grass needing its fourth layer. So we're gonna work on that. So I'm gonna do a little bit of like green right here, some right here, maybe a little bit on the side right here. Darken up that. Now that's got to dry, and then we can add another layer of the green. We're going to take this darkest green now, and we're going to add it down here to this grass, which is kind of dry brushy, but that's okay. I don't mind a little bit of dry brush, as I instantly get it not dry brushy. Kind of add a little bit of greenery, not touching the rest of it. Give a little bit of a definition here of other other grass. That looks good. I like that. So now I'm going to go back in with the okay, the second lightest green. Add a little bit of blend here with that green. Just trying to add depth. Going in with this one. It's not going to be as detailed that far back, so that's why we're not getting as much detail here. There we go. That looks pretty good. I am going to go ahead and take this dark gray, and I'm going to do a little bit more splatters on this one rock. And hopefully clean up those splatters on the island and everywhere else it just went. There. There. I think that's okay. That's looking pretty good. I am going to go ahead and add a slightly darker striation on the rock on top. So we're going to add a little bit more burnt sienna here. And we're going to keep it nice and real thin in the middle. I'm going to kind of add that darker existence here. Okay. That looks good. I may go in and outline this because the more I'm looking at it, the more I want to fine line it. But I also don't want to fine line it, so if that makes any sense. This one looks like it might be dry enough that we can go in now. So we're going to go in with that gold yellow again. We're just going to make a nice big circle here for the center. And I want it nice and thick because I want it to actually show up. That one mixed with the gold or the pink a little bit. So now we're going to let those centers dry, and then we'll do what we did over here with that darker pink. I may have to mix more of it because that's going to be a lot of dark pink that's needed. But that's okay. Everything's okay. We're going to make it work. I think at this point I am... Oh, no, I can do the leaves again. I'm going to swap down to the second largest cat's tongue brush. We're going to go in with that third level of green. I'm probably going to end up with 5 levels by the time I'm done. Because I am also going to use the green that I mixed. We're getting there. Almost completely covered on green, which is really, really good because we're covering up those holes that we don't want to see. Starting to look a little bit more like lively and existing. So we're going to do a little bit more green here just to cover up, again, that gap between the pond and the flowers. I think we are almost done with the flower, or with the leaves. A let those dry for a minute. Some of them are, that one's the only one that's really wet. Actually, I can probably go in with this darker green that I made and wait for that one to dry. Nope, okay. That was not ideal. No, it is not dry enough to do this. But I'm gonna do it anyway. Now, this green down here is really wet, which is part of why it's not giving me decent color. But we have this color and one more left. So I want to do my best to try and get those colors in there. Now, this color seems to be very close to the third level of green as I'm looking here. Like really freaking close. Apparently I didn't need to mix a color, so I had the color in the pan. Out of that green, which is fantastic. Means I can clean my pan of that area. Right there. That is looking really good. I may have to go one more down for the leaves for the cat's tongue, which means I'll have to get it out. But that's okay. Everything's okay. So we're gonna let that dry. It looks like everything I can work on currently wet, or at least what I need to work on. Everything else is very nicely dry. I'm going to get out the lower cat's tongue brush for the darkest green, just that way I can have, again, variation in those leaf sizes. Let's pull it out here, if I can find it. There's more. Oh, there's one. They're just sticking in there. So we're gonna go with the second or third tiniest brush. I did get out my, oh, I still have to do the rainbow on there. I did get out my mop brush because I was going to try and like brush a little bit on the rainbow to give it a little bit more of like a kind of movie color where it's like moving around in the water. But I'm not going to do that like I had planned because I want it to, I'll maybe do like a wiggle on it and that's going to be about it. While we're waiting for that other one to dry, let's go ahead and start doing the white on the postcard. I didn't do ripples on the big one because I didn't feel like fighting ripples, but I did on this smaller one, so I do have to squirt my white. I do have to do the ripples in here. So Dr. P.H. Martin's has stayed dry, or stayed wet for a very long time, but now it's starting to dry out, which is kind of sad. Adding the white to that ripple. Same with over here. Add the white to the ripple. And what this does is it creates a, almost like a foamy kind of look. It's reflecting the light a little better. And then under anything that is floating in the water or is sitting next to the water, we want to add white just to make it look like it's not touching the water at all. Rocks up here. I don't know if we'd see the whole white, but we'd see some. We can kind of make it almost like a beach here. Add some white as it goes out. Make it a little whiter as it comes in. Do that on this side as well. Kind of gives some life to it, if you will. And the lily pads, we also want to add the white too. All the way down across the lotus flowers. I want to do it over here with these lily pads. Oh, that's a bit thick. And so that way I can control it. Now I could add ripples following the lily pads themselves. Not going to because I don't want to fight with that. So I'm just going to add random lines when it comes down to doing in the lake. I may even just do dots only. So that way I can kind of control the serenity of the lake. So while the ripples are causing chaos and destruction, the water around it is also very calm. Collected. So I'm going to add some white dots here in the rainbow. Add some lines here. Again. Also gonna, like I said, we're gonna have those dots just to offer serenity and calm mixed in with the chaos of the ripples and the water movement. Another ripple effect here. Add some more ripples up in the water up here. Oh, that looks good. Bringing these ripples from the rocks out a little bit. I can kind of add like a little ripple here. Well, the white on the lighter blue is harder to see. I get that. I do. I really do. Here is not being as prominent as I would have liked. Hand's shaking a bit. I apologize. I don't know why my hand's shaking. I just realized I never did Sheriff's Hydrate. So let me go ahead and grab my Gatorade and hydrate. That would be a good idea. There. Now I'm hydrated. White under the lotus a little bit thicker because it is in the lighter area and it's going into a ripple. Gotta clean up that layer. Mist. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think we're down to signing. I'm gonna let the white fully dry before I sign it. Now, the lotus flowers are still wet, so I can't do that one. The leaves are still kind of wet, so I can't do that one. I could do the white. I can do the rainbow without touching that. So we're going to go with the medium round brush. I'm going to re-wet my paints here. We're going to take the red, and we want it to be kind of on the lighter side of water and transparency, so that way the red can come through the blue. Want a nice thick line here. Nice and wet thick line. As you guys know, every part of my painting has to have some sort of iridescent. Now, it looks like the rainbow is going to show up on the outside lotus flower petals because of the fact that I am painting it and it's getting in there. Now, do I want it to blend? I don't know if I want it to blend. I'm going to let it blend. We're going to go ahead while it's still wet and do the next color. I'm just going to go through the rainbow like normal. That's pretty thick. That's fine. I wanted to keep it more on the transparent side. That way I can still see the blue through it. But this orange got a little thick. It's fine. Everything is fine. I am going to go back with that red because the orange is thick. We're going to thicken it up. Also going to make it a little bit wetter. So it may actually blend with the orange here. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not the effect I was going for, but it's fine. Everything is fine. Now, I may get rid of that red with the white when I go to line the lily pad. I didn't think about the lining portion, like, at all. Ooh, my yellow iridescent's almost out. I am getting low on pigment. I may have to make more yellow. I think I still have a lot of yellow. Again, I'm not worried too much about those lines at the top being too perfectly against everything. Just because at the top we are going to have the white from the lake reflection, helping that kind of exist and be floaty. Next one is green. I'm going to go with a more vibrant green than the sap dark green. I want this to be a very vibrant rainbow. This green is going to blend in with the lily pads just a touch, which is why we want that iridescence to exist, because it'll help it stand out from the lily pad. Kind of grow that green a little bit here, because I'm trying to get that interest going on. I'm going to do a little bit more yellow, actually. Nice thick yellow here. Finish up with that green. Going over in the grass, which is not ideal, but it's going to happen. I can go back in with that green and overdo the grass, which will take away that iridescence in that area. It might not take it away completely, but it'll help. I will have to wait for the rainbow to dry before I go over it. Now we need the blue, which I'm going to do the regular blue. Now I may go straight to purple, because my rainbow got really big here. And the other part of the iridescence with the blue is it's also, the blue is going to cover up a lot of that other blue, including that texture I made right there. That was really pretty. Iridescence will help that blue stand out. Now I'm going to attempt to go in with that indigo. A little bit of indigo. It does look very purple. And once we put the purple there, it should help that blue, that indigo look more like indigo instead of purple. Final one. Take that. Bring that down and over. We are nice and pretty rainbow. Again, once it's fully dry, we're going to go in with that white and just kind of create a serene look to it, which will really help. I also need to go in on these lilies and do it. Looks like the leaves are finally dry enough. I can do those. That lily's dry enough. This one's now surrounded by rainbow that needs to dry. So we'll get there on that one. Now we're going with that third smallest brush for the leaves. We're going to go in with the darkest green. We are almost done. We have about 25 minutes left of stream, which is about how much time we have left on this painting before it is complete. We're just going to go in and add tiny dark green leaves here and there. Mainly focusing where those white spots still are. Trying to get some color in some areas where it's not necessarily there. Adding that depth in here. Not seeing any other white on that side. Might do one right here. Right, now on this side, we're going to go in again where those aren't necessarily showing very well. Cover up anywhere that's white. Remember to variate the leaf positions. This kind of green leafery was what I had intended to do with the rocks on this one. I don't know why my brain went to do rocks as soon as I started painting, but that's what my brain did. That's what we ended up doing. Apparently that leaf down there is still very wet. I think that is good. Yeah, those leaves look like they have a lot of definition, a lot of depth. Oh, I think I see one more spot. I want to do it right here. They have definition, they have depth. It looks really, really good. My throat is killing me. So this just has to wait for the rainbow to dry, the leaves to dry. Once the rainbow is dry, I can do the grass here, which it looks like actually I might be able to do now. It might be dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and try. I'm going to take this brush because I can't find my second smallest brush. I'm losing brushes now. Yeah, I don't know where that brush went. I may have accidentally put it away. I didn't mean to if I did. Anyway, we're going to take that green again, that dark green, and we're just going to kind of cover up where that green took over, where that green on the rainbow took over. Add a few more layers of depth in some of this. There we go. And because the rainbow looks dry, we can go ahead and do that pinkest pink with the rose pink here. I'm squirting to reactivate, and then I'm going to have to, oops, I'm going to have to squirt to reactivate these. I'm going to go in with that pinkest pink again, and we're just going to build it up so it's a little bit thicker, because the pigment left behind was definitely not enough for what I need to do. And we want it to be nice and thick. That should be enough pinkest pink. We're going to come in with that dark rose color. I think I need a touch more rose on this one, because the pinkest pink is a little bit more existy on this one. Sure, we'll go with that. So then we're just taking this and we're doing the outside lily petals and then bringing them in and up. Gotta be careful with how wet your brush is because you don't want it to soak up too much other. So here we're gonna just do the lily petals coming out, nice wide U or parenthesis or however you want to see it. Bring it up in the middle. Go, we're getting some nice coloration here. Looks like I'm mixing a little bit of that yellow into my pinkest pink and rose, but that's okay. There's that lily all completed. I could go in with that pinkest pink a little bit and kind of clean up here where the green is showing through quite a bit, but I gotta be careful not to hit where I just painted, because then it'll blend together. Which, again, this is kind of why I'm considering um, lining it, just because there's some of the pieces are kind of mixing into the background. I think it's fine, but I can see why people would get frustrated with the transparency and not being able to see the whole piece. Right, I need to activate my black, because I gotta sign these here in a minute. So the pond for this one is completely done. It looks like it's completely dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, let my black activate. I have apparently a million notifications, because, you know, why would we not? Now the black should be activated enough. Just kind of get that fine tip point by brushing off to the side. And then we're going to sign it. Now again, this is an example of what I could do on the postcard. I may do a few more, but my pond and my jellyfish seem to be the most popular ones that I have. The pond was actually the first bookmark I sold, because apparently it's just that pretty. And I had to make more. No one's bought the new ponds yet. I don't know if I'm good enough at my pond to actually do the pond. I'm going to do a vote on Discord, which, if you're not part of the Discord, !Discord. And then you can join Urbanos, which is where I post a lot of my art stuff and votes, and you get notified when I'm streaming and all that good stuff. I kind of want to outline the lotus at least. I don't know how I want to line it. If I even want to line it. I'm also going to go ahead and sign this one. Even though it's not complete, and you should never sign a painting before it's complete, I'm going to do it anyway. Just because I don't want to go back in and clean my brush and then need to sign again with the same brush. And reactivate the black and all that good stuff. Go. That looks nice and good. My paw is kind of going off the edge, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. No big whoop. Just waiting on this one to dry. Everything else looks dry enough that I can start playing with it with the white. I don't want to do this fine a line. I do want my second smallest brush, which, where did it go? Did I put it away on accident? I don't think I did. I remember putting any brushes away. I could have. I did. It's right here. I'm going to put the rest of my brushes away because I don't need them anymore. Again, we're just down to the white lining on this piece, which I can start. Like I said, I can't touch this lotus, but all the other things I can touch. So I'm going to go ahead and squirt some more water into my P.H. Martins. I'm going to take a drink of Gatorade because I'm thirsty. There, I feel a little better. I'm going to mix up that white. Now, it is basically a gouache, is what P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White is. There's nothing real special about it. Go ahead and underline everywhere where it floats on the water. Very careful here. Now, I don't need to do the white up by the bushes for the greenery, because that is actually in front. That does not need to exist. And that pink coming in with my bleed proof white. Now going to bleed into the pink. Bleed proof my butt. It is a little bit thicker than I would like, just because of the fact that my hands are shaking, for one, and it's a little bit wetter than it probably should be. I sprayed a touch too much water. Yeah, I knew that bleed-proof white was going to cover that red. I should have done the red. Hey, too much water. Oh no. Okay, still can't do that lotus. I'm down here. And the plus side with the bleed-proof white, it helps kind of straighten your lines that you may have fucked up. There's that. I don't have to add any white to the rocks here, so I'm just gonna add my Serenity parts, kind of lines here and there, some dots. Kind of add some like coming off the lily pads. Almost done with both these pieces, which is really, really nice. Add. Slowly bringing that back to existence in a certain plane. Add some dots here. And really with these dots and lines, it's just whatever you feel like. There is no specific rule to it. Kind of put it wherever it feels right. Gotta do this lily, which unfortunately I think it's going to bleed. Trying to keep my hands steady here. Okay, I think that did pretty good on the bleed-proof white on this very wet lily. Didn't bleed like up there. That looks actually really good. I'm really happy with that. I think I'm going to actually add a little bit of white to these rocks here. Add like a little touch of white. Both sides. That just gives a little bit of shine to the rocks, which makes them feel a little bit more like they exist and not just lifeless. So I think we are good. I have 10 minutes left, which honestly I just may end early because I got stuff I gotta do. So these are the two postcards. I have the jellyfish in the pond. I'm actually looking at this kind of leaning toward doing the pond just because there's more detail to it. It takes a little bit longer and it's got a message with it where the jellyfish are just jellyfish. I am going to leave my palette here to dry, like always. I do plan on streaming Friday. I don't know what I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna stream something. Try and think. I do have to work on making a birthday card for a friend of mine. I also have the Saturday. oh my gosh, words. The Saturday watercolor class, so I may work on doing a floral bouquet on a 9x12, which is what this size is. Just so that way I can give an example of the final piece. They're going to be practicing on 5x7s, which is this size, to determine what flowers they like and how to do the flowers, and then I'm going to give them a 9x12 piece to make a big floral piece that is the completed option, so that way they get practice and then they get to do it. Past that, I don't know. I really don't know. My life has been crazy. I went to the gym Monday and I may have fucked up my knee to the point it's swollen today. And I'm still trying to plan on going to the gym, but I don't know if I'm actually going to go to the gym. My husband's against me going to the gym because of my fucked up knee. He doesn't want me on it too much, which I don't blame him, but it's also arm day, so I won't be using my knee. So, you know, there you go. Let's go ahead and remove the tape. This one is still wet, but I'm not going to move it from the what is this called? Art board. I'm just going to call it an art board because I can't remember what it's actually called. I'm not going to remove it from the art board. I'm just going to take the tape off, which should hopefully give us a proper look at what it's going to actually look like completed. Why are all these taped weird? I can never figure out which tape goes where. Okay. I don't know what's on top and what's on bottom. I want to do it this way. Gotta be very careful with tape that you don't rip your paper. It can be very challenging to not rip your paper. It looks like it's next. Love the satisfaction of removing the tape and seeing that nice clean line on there. It's so satisfying. Go. There's the 2 postcard options. I'm going to be posting them in the Discord, and maybe Friday I'll work on the official postcard and get it submitted to Winsor & Newton, because I really, really want to put my art in a Winsor & Newton gallery. I feel like it'd be so freaking amazing. I really am really excited for this opportunity to be able to be in a Winsor & Newton gallery. I get there's hundreds of thousands of artists doing that, but I'm excited for it for myself. And again, I'm leaning pond, but I'm going to put in the art projects on our Urbanos, again, ! Discord if you're not a part of it, to vote which one I like better. If I can get the tape off my hand. So yeah, if you're not a part of our Urbanos, go join. We love new friends. That one. One more. And again, this lily or this lotus flower is still very wet right here, so I'm not going to move it from the board. I just want to see it with my nice clean lines. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. Oh! I love the white border. It just creates such an air of like professionalism. It's so good. Anyway, that should be it for our stream. We are at the last 5 minutes. Again, I apologize for starting a little late today. I got distracted putting my jewelry box together, basically. Anyway, I will be posting in Discord, and I hope to see you guys all Friday. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I'll see you then. Bye!